Hi everybody, my name's Thomas Quinn, and this is Undeniable. When people ask me why I started this podcast, there are two things I say. One, cross-promotion. I wanted to meet with artists, and I wanted to be able to just discuss their process and also make content for both of us. And the second was to force myself to go out of my comfort zone and just sit down and talk with some cool and interesting people that I might not know. This speaks exactly to this episode. 3 weeks ago I had never heard of the House of Haunt, or could say I knew much about psychobilly music. As lead singer and guitarist Fang Binite calls their sound Monsterbilly, an electrifying groove with lyrics and stage theatrics of the macabre. And really, in these truly ghoulish times that we're living through, it's somehow filling a void that I didn't know I was missing. I speak on this in the pod, but their music gets me pumped up. I put on their album 2 days ago, and I ended up cleaning my house. But I'm old, so that's a win for me. You guys would probably go out and party and do much more exciting things. But anyways, thanks again for tuning in, and this is my discussion with Fang Binite and Skull from the band House of Haunt.
As long as you put the content out, you never know how long it's going to be around for, when people are going to find it again.
You know, nowadays it's like there's all kinds of artists, like you said, are like, now it's like they're ghosts in the machine. You could be going through things and just find some random dude, and you could look up his Facebook profile and saw he had kids and
could stalk him.
No, but I'm
very
saying
easily.
Just all kinds of accounts of people who have been dead.
Oh,
and they've passed away. That's what he was saying. Like, even if someone down the road finds your book or your CD in an old record store, but now we have this internet, and you basically can peer into what that person's life was all about. If they had a Facebook profile, or hey, you gotta keep barking until you get some attention. Yeah, you are, aren't you?
Listen up, you people, I have a tale to tell about a girl with pale white skin inside a mortal shell. Her life was not forever, she died a dreary death. I could not live without my love, though I watched her final breath. We were my workers, so filled with shelter food. The landlord was our master, and he was mighty rude. He worked us every hour, he slayed us to the bone. Never could we rest, to watch kindness and know we were so scared, helpless, underprepared. In my eyes, of one despite, see through the lies, I'll tell you if you tell me. Stains my soul, let's take it home. To watch her told, I'll never let it go. The planet night, go just try to turn to see her face. You screamed her name, her all to hear, guilt set her in her place. Trial by wealthy man, dropped her from a rope. My lovely died in my side, I cried and weeping more than once. So sad, desperate, so fucking mad. In my eyes, of one is fight. See through the lies, I'll kill you if you kill me. Stains my soul, just take it home. To watch her told, I'll never.
That was Murder off the album Habeas Corpses. So why don't we start with you guys introducing yourself?
Okay, this is Fang Binite from the House of Haunt, a psychobilly band right here in Toronto, and I've got with me...
Skull.
The bass player, stand-up bass, right?
Stand-up.
I love stand-up bass. It's one of my favorite instruments for sure. So how long have you guys been together?
The band started in 2012. We started practicing in about November, and our first show was in March. So November 2011, and our first show was March 3rd, I think.
Yeah.
Or no, 9th. March 9th, right here in the Junction.
Nice.
Just the Orb, or whatever it's called, the Devil's Cellar. So we started, in 2012. So we've got 3 of the 4 original
Yeah, why don't you
people.
introduce who is in here?
Okay, so we're missing the Red Duke, who is our keyboardist. We are missing Ratcliffe Turpin, who is our drummer. And then we have 2 stage performers. Actually, we have another new member as well, Spectra. We just got her about 3 months ago. She plays the theremin.
Okay.
We have 2 stage performers, Anesthesia and Megawolf.
So when you say stage performers, are they like dancing or just doing a variety of things?
They kind of dance around, but I wouldn't call them dancers. They're not like, they throw balloons to the crowd. They hand out candy. They have little skits and sketches and stuff like that they do on stage, and they interact with us. And Anastasia does a little bit of singing, and we have like different rigs for killing people in different ways. So we try and get the fans involved. We can put them in the stocks or crucify them or rip their arms off.
Wow.
Yeah, so they take care of all that.
Going to say Anastasia also gets out of a straitjacket as one of her main acts.
Yeah.
So you're really bringing sideshow vibe.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
And actually, a lot of times we have a couple of friends, Daddy Red and Phoenix Fire. Daddy Red is out of Brampton, and Phoenix Fire is out of London. So if we're playing anywhere in the area there, we'll often call them up and get them to do their sideshow stuff, which is Daddy Red does sword swallowing, and I'm sure a bunch of other stuff too, but he's known for his sword swallowing. And Phoenix Fire is known for not feeling pain. All his stuff is about not feeling pain. So you can staple or $5 bills to his cheeks. Somebody can cut an apple out of his mouth with a chainsaw. It's really interesting stuff. Some stuff I can't even watch. I have to turn away. But yeah, we love our sideshow stuff. And
do you do it like mid-song or in between
it depends
songs?
on the gig. Sometimes Phoenix Fire will be there on his own, like he's his own act, and sometimes we'll bring him with the House of Haunt. So if it's with the House of Haunt, usually he'll do his act while we're playing. Mm-hmm. Or maybe in between a song or something like that. But if he's on his own, a lot of times Phoenix Fire and Daddy Red get booked to fill the space between bands playing. So like when the band's tearing down, the sideshow guy goes up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just to keep the show going.
Yeah.
We find it works really good just because as the band's tearing stuff down, setting stuff up, a lot of times you'll get people that will just be like, well, I'm going for a smoke. Well, I'm just going to go to a different club. But if you're going to watch a guy staple stuff to his face or, like I said, swallow a samurai sword or something absolutely insane, it keeps your attention there. And we find it helps keep audiences from sort of just getting bored and dissipating a little bit because usually there's about a 15-minute changeover when you have a show, right?
Yeah, and you don't want to lose like the band's fan. Yeah,
for sure. You want to keep them at your venue, especially if you're playing places like Toronto or London or bigger towns where, hey, there's another band down the street. Be like, oh, wow, I had a smoke. Hey, I'm going over this. Then they're gone. Yeah. So, big shout out to Phoenix Fire and Daddy Red. They are absolutely both crazy performers that should not be missed. That's for sure.
Maybe let's go into a bit of your influences because it's a very specific sound you guys have. And like, I know you're wearing a Misfits shirt. I've seen Misfits twice, I think. And so I have an understanding, I guess, but I wouldn't say I'm very well versed in like the genre.
The first psychobilly band I ever got introduced to was a band called the Matadors. They're from London, although I actually think he's from St. Thomas. But he bills himself from London.
Yeah.
So, when I first saw that, it kind of blew my mind. He did a bunch of sort of onstage antic sketches as well. And he kind of dressed up like a reverend or different kind of costumes. And then once I got into that, I got into the Horror Pops and Zombie Ghost Train. And these bands, again, they were very theatrical, wore lots of makeup or costumes and stuff. So when we started out, I was like, we have to be a costume band. And I thought that everybody in the genre was a costume band. They're not.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we are. I love being a costume band because it adds one more element to the show. Now there's something even more interesting to look at. And I think a lot of bands don't think about their look a lot. Like, even if you were just wearing street clothes, let's say I'm playing a gig and I'm already dressed sort of like I am now, right? Like kind of like a punk. And I start getting up on stage and playing. Well, you don't see professional bands do that. Nobody plays in their street clothes. Even if they're just playing in normal clothes, they'll change into kind of like their uniform, right? You always want to be, you always want to be bolder than life. So always make your image bolder than life. Musically, though, I've got influences, obviously from the Misfits and from the bands that I just mentioned. But one of my first bands that I ever started playing was The Ventures. They're a surf rock band from the 60s, completely instrumental. It was huge on when I first started learning guitar. So like that stuck in my style a lot. Other than that, a lot of Neil Young. I played a lot of Neil Young back in the day. So that kind of sneaks it in. And the Stray Cats, Brian Setzer, Addie Edge from the Silver Shine is a big influence for me as well. The more I do the psychobilly stuff, the harder I try and find more rockabilly stuff to do because my way back roots it's not psychobilly. It was a lot of classic rock and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to have more twang. So, it's still evolving. my sound.
When did you start playing?
I started playing when I was 11 years old. Everybody in my grade 7 classroom, all the boys, were buying guitars. And so I wanted a guitar. But my parents wouldn't buy me a guitar right away. We had this old ukulele that was just sitting around. It was basically a toy. And they said if I played that ukulele for a year, they'd buy me a guitar. So I picked up that ukulele and I paid for 1 month. And they got tired of that sound because it sounded awful. So they bought me a guitar. So I've been playing guitar now for 22 years. Yeah, wow. I think. My birthday's just coming up, so.
For me, I guess a similar thing. I'm a little bit older than Matt. Same sort of thing. When I was in high school, everyone I knew played guitar. And my brother was a bassist in a band called White Lie way back. And because he was older than me, I always was influenced by bass and started playing bass just because there was so many guitarists out there. And, my influences have always been more punk and metal roots, stuff like Sex Pistols, New York Dolls, Misfits, that sort of, I guess you would almost call it music from the heyday of punk, or even just on the slight downslope of the heyday of punk. And then for many years, I kind of, work and life got in the way, so I stopped playing. But I guess I started playing again with Conflicting Plaid. I guess it would have been about maybe 15 years ago. And these were friends I had in college and stuff, and they were like, hey, do you want to start up a band again? So I played bass for them for a while, and then they needed a drummer, so I switched over to playing drums for a little while, and that's how I got into the House of Haunt, actually first as a drummer. But I never really felt that proficient at drumming, and I was kind of glad that eventually our original bassist, Lauren, left the House of Haunt, and it was a good opportunity for me to get back into playing bass, and now I'm in a couple bands that as a bass player, so I'm sort of back to my roots, and I really enjoy it, actually. I like being up a little closer and interacting with the crowd a little bit. It's a lot of fun.
When I feel it's soon and rough, when my night has had enough, the bottle gets me through. I want the blackest stuff, the stuff that makes you tough. Born a creature new. I drink it down, spins me around. Oh, forget my pain. The red sets in. How bad I've been, and now I'm getting worse. Fools my veins, makes me insane. I don't know my name. Oh, monsters, what I turn into when I am with you. Run from that cocoon. Can't look myself in the mirror anymore. Dark thoughts in my head and that future in store. Why should I live my life when I can end yours? At the edge of the night, feel not the guilt for blood I spilled from blade to hill. I'm now a beast, to say the least. On flesh I feast. Why my mind inside you'll find all
That was Rum from the Black Lagoon off the album Habeas Corpses. So you mentioned like costume band. What are your costumes?
We've changed our outfits a little bit here and there because things get worn out and you have to replace them and you can't always find the exact thing. But our costumes have been pretty much the same since we started. And it's because that's our brand. That's our look. When you see our picture, you know exactly who we are. If I was to cut my hair or dye my hair another color, change my clothes and stuff like that, you might not know who I am anymore and not be able to associate that we're with the House of Haunt. So, yeah.
So could you describe your look?
Okay, so our look, I'm a mummy, but not like a mummy from from ancient times. I'm lost in time. I was plucked out of the Egyptian era and put into today's time and discovered punk rock and stuff like that. So he's kind of a punk rock mummy, Fang by night. And I wear wraps around my face and I have a bodysuit and stuff like that. We do a lot of makeup and skulls and stuff. I think slowly every member in the House of Haunt is just going to be a skeleton because every time we change our stuff, it's always like, oh, I'm going to do a skull. Oh, I'm going to do skeleton hands now. I'm going to do, but I'm a mummy. Then Ratcliffe Turpin, our drummer, is an executioner. Wears an executioner's hood, so you can really see his eyes. And he's got, I don't know, what do you call those, like shoulder straps or whatever?
Yeah, medieval types of weapons.
So he's an executioner. We have Anastasia, one of our stage performers. She is a surgeon. Don't call her a nurse. She'll get really mad. She is a disgraced surgeon. And she wears the blue, the smock, and has a circular saw blade on her wrist to cut people open with. Then we've got Mega Wolf, who is kind of like a technological wolf man who's got lasers for eyes and power plant on his back and stuff like that. He's really cool. You want to make sure you check him out. And then the Red Duke is he kind of switches, of all the characters, I think he switches the most because he is first and foremost a magician, more or less, or a magic, like a spellcaster and stuff like that. So he's been a monk, he's been a priest, he's been a voodoo priest, and he's had a couple, all that kind of religious, spiritual stuff. And he kind of switches between them, but he's always up to no good. And then we've got Skull, who is exactly what you think he would be. Skull.
I started off as a Frankenstein monster, and then when I was drumming, I would find makeup would just run down my face too much. So I've recently adopted more of the Skull persona, and now it's sort of like a Skull prisoner outfit is sort of what I'm using as my current look.
Yeah, but you've also got that... that really fancy jacket. What is that style?
It's like a mason's jacket that I found in a thrift store, but it's got like brass buttons. It's got like crosses on the sleeves. It's
Who did that for you?
Fatal Envy, yeah. Laura Lace, she trimmed it in because when I got it, I don't know who owned it before, but they had a rather large body and it had to be taken in quite a bit. So she did a great job and added some embellishments on it and did a great job.
How'd you guys all come together then?
So, before I was in the House of Haunt, I was in I don't know if I want to call it a band, but I mean, we had a name. All we ever did was play that one pub in our hometown that had open mic night, but we were called the Free T-Shirts.
And what town's that, sorry?
Georgetown, Ontario.
Okay.
And our singer, I think, ended up going to school or something like that. So the project, ended. It wasn't much of a band anyways. We didn't have a drummer. Yeah. It was just a bass, a guitar, and a guy who could sing, and it wasn't a real band. But anyways, once that finished, I was like, okay, obviously music is something I really, really want to do, and I need to be more serious about it. So I'm going to try and get into a real band now. And I answered an ad. I don't even remember what the website was, but someone had put out an ad for a guitarist for a psychobilly band, and I really wanted to be in a psychobilly band, and it ended up being from Lauren Labosimo. She was Lauren Faulkner back then. She wasn't married. And it was like my first big trip to the city that I'd ever kind of gone on my own. The only other place in the city I'd ever gone to was the hospital.
Okay.
So I ended up knocking on some door and some ancient woman came out, wasn't Lauren, had the wrong address, calls her up, and I go into her apartment and we started jamming out and it worked really well. And then she told me that she knew a drummer from somewhere. And I think the next time I came to her apartment, Skull was there drumming.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So is this in 2012 or is this?
This is 2011, roughly, November 2011. And then when we started really practicing and playing, If you haven't figured it out, the Red Duke is my identical twin. So he started, wanting to get involved. He had been a bassist for a little bit, and he knew a little bit of piano and stuff. And he wasn't sure he could commit all his time to it. So we were trying to find a way to incorporate him that meant that it was great when he was there, but you didn't really miss him when he was gone. So he ended up playing a theremin app on an iPad. Yeah. And he did that for I think about 2 or 3 shows until he realized he could commit himself full time to the House of Haunt. And then we switched him over to keys because he had some experience with playing piano. And we just kind of took it from there. We've had members that had to leave for a little while or come back. And we've had a couple other members like Django Bloodheart was our guitarist for a while. But like I said, we have 3 out of 4 original members. So not too much change. Yeah,
that's good, especially for a band over 8 years.
Yeah. Oh, man. It used to be, I kept all the show posters, right? And it used to be like, I could go through them and be like, oh, I remember that band. I should call them up. Oh, wait. So many bands break up. Like, of the bands that started when we were starting, even like Black Cat Attack is kind of on. I guess they're back, though.
They're back.
They're back.
They had a little hiatus.
But like, maybe I can count 4 bands that started in the same scene as us that are still around. And that means like 200 broke up.
I mean, that says something about you guys, that you obviously have passion for this project. You've committed to it for 8 years. When did you start recording?
We put out an EP that was called, I think it was just called the Highway Horror EP. And we must have done that within a year. So maybe end of 2012.
Like self-produced?
No, we went to a place called Mojo Studios, which is up in Barrie, run by Neil Devereaux, who we did all but one recording with. Our newest album was not recorded at Mojo Studios, but every other piece of our music is. He was really, really good recording and bang up stuff, and it was for a really good price. But now he's moved on to like larger things. But we went to Sugar Bear Studios right here in Toronto with Mihai Truskell. And he did an amazing job too. So we're just as happy with Mihai and with Sugar Bear Studios.
If you can, check out 2600 as their band. I always joke they are like Toronto's Underground Rush. They are very technical musicians. And I think in that way, it helps them be excellent producers of music too.
Yeah.
They have that in their head. They understand what good music structure should be like. And like I said, they're absolutely fantastic musicians on their own. So
what was their name again?
Their band name is 2600.
Okay.
They have 2 full-length albums. They got some really good stuff. They really haven't been playing as much. They've had some members with some health issues, but he's gotten better. But yeah, I want to give him a shout out, Sugar Bear Studios and those guys. Like, excellent stuff. I think we've gotten some good reviews. I think just because of the quality of the recording.
That's Blood on the Silverscreen, the latest one. I want to get to Blood on the Silverscreen because I've listened to that probably the most out of your albums. But so Gate Night was the first full length?
No, our first full length was called Monsters on the Loose. And the way we recorded that is...
Sorry, could you like time frame that?
Monsters on the Loose is actually just 3 EPs collected into one album plus like 3 more songs. Because when we went to go up to record at Mojo Studios, we always booked maybe like 3 songs. So we would do 3 songs, release it on EP. Do 3 songs, release it on EP. The next time we'd go up, we'd do 3, maybe 4 songs, and then take those 6 that we'd recorded on EPs and throw it on an album. So that's why it's a little hard for us to remember exactly when we recorded Monsters on the Loose.
I see.
Because it was recorded over years.
Yeah. So is that strategy? Is that what you've been doing all the way up until now?
That's the same with Habeas Corp. Actually, it's the same with all of them. Blood on the Silverscreen was even... And it's just because... If you do EPs every couple of years, you always have something fresh and something new. And yeah, it's kind of a jerk move to sell people music they've already got. Like when you've got that full album and they've already got the 2 EPs, they got 6 songs out of the 10. But at least when there's a new album, there are 4 more songs, right? So you're getting value every time. And we try and keep our prices pretty low. We know it's a hard world for everybody. And we don't really want to charge you much more than it costs to manufacture. Because if you can't afford our music, that's sad for us.
Yeah. It seems like that's the standard now where like 9 Inch Nails do that. Where like everyone just puts out EPs because you have to always have content for people to know that you are still there.
Yeah.
And to help promote touring is here's a new song, come see it. How do you find your distribution between physical at the show, merchandise to digital streaming?
That's such a loaded question. We're huge proponents of physical media because people don't realize, like I hear it all the time. They're like, "Are you on Spotify?" And I say, "Yeah, I'm on Spotify," but or they say, "Are you on Spotify?" And I say, "Yes." And they say, "Oh, good. I've got premium. So, I'm really supporting you guys." No, you're not. Yeah. Even in the premium, you're not giving us anything. And that's what I hate about Spotify is it's got this illusion that if I pay for Spotify, I can help the bands I like. That's completely wrong. It means you get to listen to my music, which I'm glad that you're listening to, and it is a way for my music to reach new listeners, so I can't be that upset. But it keeps us down. The only people who make money off of it is Spotify. They use my music to get you to listen so that they can make money off of the ads. And that's the only person who makes money. So yeah, we are on Spotify, and we do, if you really want to support a band and you're into the digital media stuff, go to Bandcamp. Bandcamp, almost every band has a Bandcamp. If you don't, guys, go out and get yourself a Bandcamp. That's where, if you paid money, that's where a band we get, I think, 80% of the money that you pay on Bandcamp. So, yeah, online is great. I really try and push our CDs. I know CDs are really people say they're on the way out, but I don't know. I think once everybody just put all their CDs away and they're just listening to the vinyl or they're just listening to MP3s, they might actually miss it because the sound quality on the CD is still the best quality you will hear today. Okay, a WAV file has more data in it than an MP3. We want people to buy our CD album, again, because it's something you can take home and something you can look at. And we always try and have really good artwork to go with it too. Just recently, I think at our next show, which is March 6th in Hamilton, we are bringing out, we've put all our music, all 3 albums and a couple extras on a USB key. And we've attached them to voodoo dolls. And I think that's going to really help a lot of people because I've been hearing, "Oh, I don't have a CD player."
Yeah.
But they have a vinyl player. And I'm like,
have you ever done vinyl?
No, but we are working on it. We're in talks with Diablo Records, which is based out of the UK. And we're pretty sure it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. They've got a lot of pressings to do right now. So it's like a list of things to do. And we're kind of near the bottom.
Yeah.
But we are going to put out a vinyl. It's tough. It's even though I might prefer the CD, I'm realizing that I need to do it all. Maybe we even should do a cassette.
I fall into one of those people who don't have a CD player. So we have vinyl, a nice vinyl collection, and
I have a vinyl collection too. So don't get me wrong. I'm a bit of a hypocrite, I suppose.
I sort of think a lot of people who are music fans and stuff, it's a tough mix for artists now because you have certain people that will just download stuff, and like I said, we really don't make a huge amount of profit on that. Say iTunes, we maybe get a couple bucks from some iTunes. Yeah. But I think it's funny. It's like there's a group of people that still physically have that in their head. They want an actual physical copy. Say if your hard drive crashes or something, and then you lose all your music. But records and CDs are always there. The whole debate about whether records sound better than CDs, I personally am more of a CD fan. The invention of, I lived through all the generations from way back to even 8-tracks. So I've always found CDs have a slightly better quality, but I think it's hard to say because some people will put a record on a, $5,000 turntable stereo stuff, but then they'll put a CD in a little boombox and go, "Whoa, the record sounds better." Well, it's also the system too.
Say it's also the nostalgia, something about watching the needle come up and then and then the crackle. That's what does it for me.
That's the best thing that you're going to get is the physical copy.
For sure.
The thing about vinyl is it might sound amazing and people might prefer it, but for a local band like us to produce a vinyl, we can sell you we just did these USB keys, right? And we could sell you all of our music for $25 on a USB key. If we sell you a vinyl, it's 6 songs and it's going to cost you $50 because it's going to cost us $45 to print.
Yeah.
And so, or I can sell you a CD for $10 or $5 and you can get 20 songs on it.
Yeah, I get it. It's kind of how everyone is these days. It's I blame the computer companies, really. They got rid of the CD drive.
Yes. Yeah.
For a small band to produce the same material over so many different versions of media, it's expensive. It's expensive. So we are really hoping that this Diablo Records deal sort of goes through And we're hoping that is also going to help push us into European markets.
Have you ever played outside of Canada?
I've played personally in the U.S. a few times, but the House of Haunt has not left Canada yet. This summer, we're planning our first trip to Western Canada. Last year, we did Eastern Canada for the first time. Now we're doing West. So we're like, what's the point in going across the ocean or down in the States if you haven't hit all of your own country's spots?
For sure. Yeah. Are you doing like the van, like the old school way?
We wanted to rent an RV. The biggest problem is that with a van, you can purchase unlimited miles, but with an RV, there's no option. So like you're paying lots for the mileage. So yeah, we're doing the van, but it's gonna be a blast.
I've always wanted to do something like that. When I was younger, I would like just travel a lot and kind of like hobo around to different friends' places just for the sake of, okay, I'm gonna go to that city. But in my head, I've always romanticized getting in a van, going to stop, playing for like 5 strangers, and then like next night, maybe 100 people, okay. Maybe like where it just varies from town to town. I've seen this a few times where friends of mine have played these massive shows and then we're booked like night to night. And then the next night there's like 20 people there.
That happens for all sizes of bands. It's something that we all just have to accept, is it will be the coldest day of the year someday and no one will show up. Or fucking Rob Zombie's playing down the street and there'll be no one at your show.
Yeah.
Or even for Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie might come into town, but like, sorry, that's the same day that the Rolling Stones are in town. And they might not even go to his show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It happens for even the largest of guys.
So how have you guys seen your progression over the last 4 years since you've been putting out full-length albums? How have you seen your sound evolve over that time? Because
we've gotten to be better musicians. So they're more complex than they used to be. And our interests in, our personal interests in music have evolved as well. We're musicians, so we're always trying to get more and more, listen to more and more content, right? And as you do that, you hear things that you haven't heard before. It makes its way into your music somehow, right?
Yeah.
So from our beginnings, I would say we're a little punkier sounding now. Our drums have changed a lot, like on Blood on the Silverscreen, because we have a new drummer. So as our basses sounds a little bit different because Sean's on the bass.
So this is a recent switch that you guys?
Yeah, this happened. Radcliffe's only been with us. It was just like last month that he celebrated a year. Yeah, and our keyboardist is back. So you hear more keys on Blood in the Silverscreen than you did on Habeas Corpses. There was keys, we just programmed them in.
Yeah.
And we tried to downplay the keys a little bit because he's no longer a member, right? We didn't want people to miss that he wasn't on stage. We had 2 guitars, so I mean, but there's more impact on the keys on this sound. And as far as like growth, like our fan base grows. So when we go to shows, they're a little fuller than they used to be, and same with like monetary value. We get paid a little bit more than we used to. So that goes to show our growth as well. And we play more towns. Like we went to the East Coast last year. And so now there's people in the East Coast that know who we are.
What were some of your stops on that tour?
We only had 2 stops. I cannot believe, and I tried, it was so hard to these things are so hard to book.
Oh yeah. If you're not in the like brotherhood.
Yeah, they're so hard to book. Quebec is difficult. Because I guess it's kind of like Toronto, and Toronto's easier for us because we grow up in Toronto. Yeah. We know people in Toronto. But imagine trying to go to a Toronto where you knew no one. There a lot of like you have to rent the bar, so you pay $400, and then from the money back you can kind of like make money, but
it's not your town.
Exactly,
so
it's not your town, and even when you start talking to Quebec-based bands, they're like, ooh, I don't know if I want to play with a band from Ontario because it means that they're not going to bring anybody.
Yeah.
Right? But we have played in Montreal a few times now. And I do say that we have a fan base in Montreal now. So if there's any Montreal bars out there listening, we can do it. We can bring people through the door.
Having lived in Montreal for a long time, I would think your sound would go over really well there. Like the whole gamut from punk to even like a little jazzy sound to psychobilly.
We had a hell of a time in Nova Scotia. We stopped in New Glasgow and Halifax, and it was a blast. So thank you, Halifax. Thank you, New Glasgow. And thank you, the province of Nova Scotia. And our friend, the Black Rats. We knew a band, a psychobilly band out there. Been in contact with them for a while. So that was sort of like why Nova Scotia was that much easier to book, because we knew people.
No, that makes sense. I also lived in Halifax for a while, have some friends there. And again, I could see your sound going over really well. Like, I look forward to seeing you guys because I don't listen to a lot of more punkish psychobilly. Like, I don't listen to a lot of upbeat music so much anymore. So I found myself like just cleaning my apartment earlier because I was just like, like had a coffee, threw on the album, and
there you go. If you need to get housework done, listen to the House of Haunt. I think it's also our sound. It's a little bit different than psychobilly. I think like a lot of people slump us in.
We identify ourselves as Monsterbilly.
Yeah,
but I think we're the only monster.
No, I'm sure there's more out there. I'm sure some fall under that title.
Oh, I'm sure others fall under the title. It's just like I've never seen another band use that word.
Honestly, yeah, I think that's true. But yeah, we've been trying to sort of focus outside of Toronto a little bit, just because, like I said, we're trying to get that growth of slowly moving out.
I think that's a great idea, especially your sound. I grew up in Muskoka. When they have like one bar and like a band comes through and you're in that town, like you might only get 50 guys or something, but like it will be a small room. 50 guys will feel like 200 and they'll most likely be pretty messed up. And they will like really come to cut loose.
Yeah, there's something to be said for playing smaller towns because unlike Toronto or Montreal or these bigger places, you might be the only thing going on in that town.
For sure.
And you might be the only thing going in that town that month.
Yes.
Right? So they're going to be there.
Exactly. Especially if you're I don't know if you bring your performers out on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know I have friends who play in like more metal style bands and they've had a lot of success going like to Oshawa, Hamilton, where you guys are playing, up to Barrie, up north. There's so much here in the city, and it's your home base. So like to actually reach out to new people, it seems like a great idea to get out as much as possible.
Oh, yeah. London is crazy. London chipped my tooth. They were so crazy.
That sounds like a story.
It's not that big a story. I mean, I'm singing, the boom mic kind of is a little bit off of the stage, and guys are dancing and partying and getting into fistfights, and they bump the boom mic, and up comes the mic into my mouth. And I was like, I stopped for a second, felt my tooth. Everybody, my other guys are still playing, right? The band's still playing. I've stopped, and I'm like, do I like go over there and clock the guy, or do I keep playing? I kept playing. But I was like, fuck. Because, you chip your tooth, and you think it's huge. The chip is huge, right? No matter, it could be tiny, but you're like, oh, I think it's huge. It was tiny.
Yeah.
Speaking of London, Shaking Cats Radio is a station that plays us out in London. It's out of Western University. But yeah, London is a great town. We are also seeing them playing there next weekend.
Yep, so we're excited. On the 7th of March.
And every time we play London, there's something happens. The last time, some guy just comes up on stage and he's like drunk as anything. Man. And he's like, oh, I thought you wanted me to play bass. And Derek comes around the kid. I didn't even see him, and just like strong arms him like right to the back of the bar. Comes back on stage, and we play our next song. I could barely keep together. I was laughing so hard just because I just did not expect it.
He came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and this guy just comes up on stage. Oh, I thought you wanted me. And Derek's just like, nope. Off you go. I was like, that was amazing.
Yeah,
that's rock and roll.
But yeah, London's always a blast, so we're looking forward to playing there again.
And where are you guys playing? Sorry?
We're playing at the 365, which is just a little bit outside of downtown London. I couldn't give you the address. Look it up, the 365.
Yeah, I'll start working on it while you talk.
People have the internet.
They have the internet. They can look it up themselves. Google it. Google the motherfucker.
Facebook.
You said it's an ongoing relationship. Did you know people in that scene before you started going to London, or was it like an organic thing where you played one show and then...
We have roots there now, but it's just because we've been hitting it for years and years. Like, we've been going there for 8 years.
Yeah.
Our Mega Wolf guy actually lives in London now. He met his girlfriend in London at a show we were doing.
There you go, bringing love.
And London is a music loving town. So if you're looking to play London or you're looking to get into that scene, they want more people to come through. They devour that stuff.
Colleges, universities, like a lot of younger people just influx into
we get a lot of the older drunks.
Okay.
There's a lot of older drunks in London too.
I love it because we get paid as per the we get paid on bar sales there.
Oh, wow.
So we love London alcoholics. Keep on drinking, boys.
You're doing it to support the arts.
Supporting the arts with your liver.
That was Hetzhund from the new album Blood on the Silverscreen. So I really like this album, and from what you were telling me, you guys are getting some good traction with it. When did it come out?
Came out in 2019. We released it, and yeah, it was reviewed in a New Zealand magazine. I think what ended up happening was there was an online radio station out of New Zealand. I'd seen a bunch of Ontario-based bands like send music to these people, and they were on their playlist or whatever. So I sent them music, and I think the guy who runs the radio station ran the magazine. So he didn't even say he was going to review it or anything, but it was in the magazine. And then we were also featured in Horror Hound magazine, which is based out of Ohio, Cleveland, I think. And the writer, but he lives here in, I believe, Toronto. It could be Barrie, and so he does a lot for Ontario-based bands. He gets them into this Horror Hound, which is an international magazine. So big thanks, Kyle.
I believe it was Splatterama.
Yes, that was the name.
Was the New Zealand magazine. And we were really happy because we were ranked 8 out of 10. And I believe it was alongside of Municipal Waste.
Municipal Waste and Wednesday 13.
The band that was above us was The Hue, which is also this great Mongolian metal band. And I think they got 9 out of 10. We were listed right beside guys who are signed to Metal Blade Records and stuff. That was a big treat for us to see that.
So there goes a bit of a counterpoint to the physical, right? That digital ability to just...
But I've mailed our album out to London, England. I've mailed it to Brazil. Guys will ask us for album, and I could just as easily send you it through the mail. But yes, it does help that it's in the airwaves across the internet. So yeah,
immediately.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, if you want an album, wherever you live, we're happy to send it out.
All right. No, that's cool, man. Are you guys planning the trip?
As you've heard before, it helps to have friends when you're trying to play in a new location, right? We had friends, Black Rats in Halifax, so it was easier to go there. Now we're going out west, and we're friends with a band called 5 Cent Freak Show. So they were able to hook us up with some other local bands and stuff like that. So we're trying to get our Diablo Records in the UK, so could kind of be a foothold for us if we want to go out there, which we do.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that for bands, the cost of travel, we'd love to go to New Zealand, but I believe it's almost $2,000 a person get there and back. One funny story, when we were thinking before we thought of Calgary, we were thinking of trying Europe, and we were looking that we'd stop over in Iceland. So the funny story from Matt is he calls up the Iceland embassy.
Yeah.
Hey, how do we get permits to play there? And they're like, you want to play here? Yeah, no one's ever played here. They were kind of shocked that there was somebody that wanted to come play Iceland. So, hey, if anyone wants to pay for us to go to Iceland, maybe we'll work on that next year.
That's funny. Bjork's from there. I'd play there if I was in a band. How have you seen the new album being received live?
The songs are more complicated than they used to be, so I guess people Monsters on the Loose had me as the only guitarist, so I was able to play a lot of the leads and stuff but it's tough when you sing and play rhythm, and then you've got to do the leads too. So when we got a second guitarist, I stopped playing lead, and I just played rhythm. And so when people were talking about who was really good at the guitarist, it was Django Bloodheart, because he was playing all the lead, and he's way better than I am, anyways. But now I'm back playing lead again. I was in a band called Cadillacs and Cadavers for a while, where I was playing lead in there and not singing. So it gave me the opportunity to write a lot of solos and play a lot more technically. And so going into the House Haunt as the lead guitarist again, I'm playing a lot more complicated stuff than I used to, and the fans are hearing it, and they're like, man, you can shred. Although I can't shred. But I can play very well. And then people really like Skull on bass. His playing style is a bit quicker. Instead of hitting half notes or quarter notes, he's doing either 8th notes or 16th notes on a lot of stuff. So he's got a bit more of a presence. And our drummer, and Skull will be the first to say it.
I'll admit it.
Ratcliffe Turpin is not far better, but he's a better drummer. He is a better drummer. So our sound has gotten better, and the fans have been telling us that.
Might be the new studio, might be the new lineup, might be multiple of things, but it did sound a lot more tight.
Yeah, we're better.
Yeah.
The longer we do it, the better we're going to be, right?
Exactly, more experience. So I like to, in kind of closing, just look back at yourself and Would you have foreseen this is where you were, like, as a younger person?
Man, I grew up in Georgetown, and nobody even leaves Georgetown, all right? They live their whole lives in Georgetown, and you're like, let's go to Toronto. And they're like, oh, no, people get killed in Toronto. I can't go to Toronto. It's filled with crackheads. Oh, no, I can't go. So, yeah, no. For a while when I was young, I was like, I'm going to live in Georgetown my whole life. I was going to just be like those people. But thank God I answered that ad and fucking got out of Georgetown. Lovely town.
Yeah.
But, like, don't shelter yourself, guys. Get out. My largest aspiration before I started the band was to play a paid show.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to play with the band The Matadors, which was the first psychobilly band that I had heard of. And I got to do that within the first year.
Oh, really?
Past that, everything has been completely unexpected. And we've had some pretty big highs. Like, we headlined the Opera House. We played with the Misfits a bunch of times. I played with Michael Graves. Like, he's a huge influence on my songwriting. And, like, it's amazing just the opportunities we've got to play. And they're all mind-blowing. So I'm so thankful to our fans and to all the great bookers and promoters and venue owners. I'm actually living my dream. It's amazing. Thanks so much, everybody.
My aspirations when I was playing music, I was just, hey, if I get to play the bovine, anything above that is a bonus, right? Like, I just wanted to play music with like 20 people in the room. I was happy with that. So again, like, Steve Hogue at the Rock Pile has been absolutely terrific to us. I got to give him a shout out. He was able to get us in. We've played for the Misfits 4 times. And Michael Graves a bunch of times. Teenage Head, like, I was so stoked to play with Teenage Head. I remember my brother having a Teenage Head album. To me, these guys were like, Canada's Sex Pistols, I guess you would call them. Like, I don't know if that's an insult or not to them, but to me, they were a big influence on Canadian punk. Yeah. And like I said, as a young guy, even we didn't play with the Danzig Misfits, but Walk Among Us was a huge hit for me. So I'm like, man, like, I'm sharing the stage with these guys. So I gotta say, like, you don't know where stuff's going to go. If, like I said, if we do get a deal in the UK and people start digging that, positive feedback is always a bonus the way I see it, right?
Makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, I guess it does make it worthwhile.
Did you guys want to talk about the acoustic album?
Okay, so I had done a few interviews with Bod's Mayhem Hour, the Bod Father.
Okay.
He is out of Arkansas, I believe. And I'd done a couple of interviews with him because he likes this kind of music. And I can't remember if I contacted him first or not, but we have a relationship.
Yes.
Okay. And so when I did an interview with him, he said, Halloween's coming up and I've got this band that we're going to pretend like the live performance in the studio. Of course, they recorded it somewhere else, but because nobody's going to drive across state to do something like that. And they're like, well, he says, I got something for Halloween, but I don't have anything for Thanksgiving. I was thinking of doing the same thing again for Thanksgiving. Would you guys be interested in that? And I said, holy shit, yeah. I'd love to do that. He supports us just as well as we support him.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's really, we're shaking each other's hands because it's new content for him and new exposure for us, right?
Yeah.
So when we got that, we said, we contacted our friends at the 2600 Studios, the Mojo Studios, and we figured if we're going to record this stuff and send it out to be played on the airwaves, it's probably good enough to sell as an EP. So that's what we did. We went into the studio, we recorded live, but we made sure we took our time to set up proper mics at the right place and make sure our levels are all well. Like, so it's a live performance.
Yeah.
It's got good production on it.
Yeah.
And with those songs, it's just like the natural order was to put it out on a CD or a vinyl or something, which hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen.
Is that on our flash drive?
No. It's not on our flash drive. We can put it on. There's room for it. I could go through each flash drive and stick it on there. But right now, I mean, you can listen to it on YouTube for free. So
I guess
I think you could even download it someplace. I think we might even have it on our Bandcamp as a download.
Yeah, so why don't you just give us your socials? How can people find you?
I mean, if you type the House of Haunt into Google, you'll get us and a German, I want to say they are a cross-dressing performance art called the House of Haunt. But those are the only two things that'll come up. So you'll be able to find us because we're not dressed in drag.
Okay.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. We're the House of Haunt. We have a few Instagram accounts because each of our characters kind of have their own. Skull runs the House of Haunt page, so he doesn't have his own. But I have one. Fang Binite. Anesthesia has one. Mega Wolf, which I think it's Mega Man Mike is his, or Mega Mike. Yeah, we're on Bandcamp. We have a webpage, www.thehouseofhaunt.com. It's thehouseofhaunt@gmail.com, or we'd love to hear from you. So please send us a message or a comment and let's get chatting.
All right, cool, guys. Thanks a lot for coming by.
Very welcome.
Great.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you for having us out. Looking forward to hearing it.
So there it is, guys. Episode 4 is done. Thanks again for listening. Please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this. It really helps me keep going, seeing the numbers gradually climb. I know we're still new to this, so any like, any share, any review really helps us out in the algorithm. And as we all know, the algorithms rule our life. So let's take the power back, give us a little bump. And if you're looking to get in contact with me, you can reach me at undeniablepod@gmail.com. If you're looking to get on, if you have some suggestions, or if any personal insight on the struggle that you guys face as artists, I'd love to hear from you. I might even pick a couple to read on the next pod. So thanks again. I'll talk to you again next week. Undeniable is a creation from Tomcast Industries. Theme music was created by Tony Malik.